You had obviously a strong professional father in the military, and then you have a mother who's running a business, that too in a place like Jaipur. Were you involved in any one of those journeys?
I was very timid, very coy, very quiet child, very small also in size. The world and its adventures and traversities have changed me as a person. So I want to leave. I want to leave. So abhi tuko 2 mahine, he just point back refused. So I went out, I wrote a resignation, came back and said, I'm resigning. And without my last month's salary, I walked off. So I was quiet and timid, I could not work for anyone. So entrepreneurship was the only thing I could do. But in 10 saal baad, what do you think you will do? I said, मैं एक महीने का 1 लाख रुपए कमाना चाहता हूँ. I learned communication, negotiation, saying a lot with far less words. Observing my mother was my best learning. My father and I never got along. That was the second turning point in my life. That's when I realized that I can't do a job, I can't work with my father. So then I got an opportunity to play basketball in the US. Went to the US Embassy and I was denied visa. The second day I went again, I was refused again. First pitch that I heard, you will not believe it. The first or second pitch was Razorpay. I can be a co-lead or a lead. I'm never a passive investor.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Money Talks. Today we are in the pink city of Jaipur, and I have with me someone whose presence can be heard even when he's outside the building, and can definitely be felt when he leaves the building. Because just like Elvis, right? We have Mahavir with us, right? So, Mahavir, welcome to the Money Talks. I mean, the list of your accomplishments can take half this episode, but just a little bit about that we will talk about today. You're a founding pillar of TIE Rajasthan, obviously known very well across the TIE ecosystem. You're the first ever Asian to chair the TIE Global Board, founder of Rain, an angel investor with over 40 startups, now a GP at Swishin Ventures. But before all of that, you've been in the carpet business, you set up a business in the US, you came back to India. There is just so much to explore. So without further ado, Mahavir, welcome to the Money Talks.
Thank you, Anirudh. Always a pleasure to be with you, an honor to be on the Money Talks.
Thank you so much. So we're going to dive right into it, Mahavir. I think you grew up here in this vibrant pink city of Jaipur.
Yes.
Obviously, wasn't probably a lot very pink when you were growing up.
It was a lot more pink. Now it has many shades of pink and orange, but it was pink, much more pink when we were there. A very small city, very cozy, warm city. Now it's pretty spread out.
It's pretty big, actually. In fact, I have been coming to Jaipur, I think, since 1984. My mother's from Jaipur, and I think the city has just grown magnanimously.
It has.
So tell us a little bit about growing up in Jaipur and what was that experience for you?
So we moved to Jaipur in 1973 from Haryana. And my mother started the carpet business, and we were small kids. And she moved to Jaipur because either it was due for us, for our education actually, and or it was either Mayo or St. Xavier's of Jaipur. And my father, being in the army, said, "Nahi, Doon mein they'll become soft and cozy. I want them to be in a hard, warm climate." So we decided to move to Jaipur. Carpets was the in thing then, and we started that in 73. I was all of, very young and went to school, did my schooling here in St. Xavier's. Those simple, back then, 70s and 80s, cycle, cricket, school, nothing much, but pretty exciting journey. I was a very timid, very coy, very quiet child, very small also in size.
Find that hard to believe, Mahavir.
Yeah, I know. I think the world and its adventures and traversities have changed me as a person. If you ask up to any of our school friends, I am probably the most transformed person that they would call. I was always at the back bench. I was very quiet. I was good in studies. I always above average. Did my homework. So pretty diligent. But when in 11th or 12th, I got into some sort of, political school, like I became the class monitor, had a vote to choose the president, and that's how I got entangled into the worldly this thing. And I think those were great years of my journey, and I was wanting to go to IIT and studied very hard in 11th, 12th. That's the schooling bit of it. I got 2200 position at the exam. I was not getting chemical engineering because I wanted to join my mother and carpets needed a chemical engineer. I was getting marine engineering at DMIT Calcutta. I said, if this is 22, I'll get 1600 next time. That's what I need for chemical. So I joined the local college here, Maharaja's College Science, because I wanted to pursue physics, chemistry, maths. I did not even get 2200 the next time around. So I ended up graduating from Maharaja's College and suddenly realized that engineering is not my cup of tea.
Acha.
Yeah. Then, of course, in college, I used to play basketball. And in college, I became a pretty rough student. I changed from school. I was good at athletics, good at basketball, good at cricket. So all sports, no classes. Just studied 15 days prior to the exam and
Wow.
got 60 some percent. And thinking I have to go to IIT, I don't have to finish college here. But I ended up graduating from Maharaja's College, ended up representing Rajasthan University for the basketball team. Ended up joining law because I wanted to continue to be on the team. Again, law, never attended a single class, did 2 years of law without attending a single class. So my journey's been good in terms of very adventurous and enterprising, but it was always something that I always saw that I could not be, though I was quiet and timid, I could not work for anyone. So entrepreneurship was the only thing I could.
Acha.
I tried, right after graduation, I tried to get a job. I got a job for North India because, English and communication back then was also good. They gave me North India sales head for a company called Crystal. They used to make these lighters and this cutlery boxes used to come. And I joined that with a Bombay-based Gujarati company. So I joined the company. I traveled to UP. I would travel to Gujarat. I traveled to Madhya Pradesh. In 1 month, I traveled all those cities selling knives and forks and lighters.
And this is a time when there was no flights, I'm guessing.
There was no flight, all train,
Oh.
all train. And I used to stay at, I think I remember 40 rupees for a room near the railway station. And we used to get, I think, 100 or 200. I mean, my salary was 3,000 rupees.
Wow.
And
That time was a lot of money, is it?
yeah, that time was good. It was great pocket money. And 2 months later, my cousin sister was getting married. And I said, sir, I want leave. I want to leave. He said, Abhi tuko 2 mahine, he just point back, refused. No, you have to go to Madhya Pradesh. You've not done Madhya Pradesh as yet. So I went out, I wrote a resignation, came back and said, I'm resigning. And without my last month's salary, I walked off. And I realized that it's very difficult. And when I can sell other people's product, I can definitely sell my
Absolutely.
own carpets. And that's when I joined my mother. By then, my father had retired and joined the business 2 years prior to that. So that's where my childhood ended, and I became a rebel from a very coy and a timid child in school.
And a very interesting, you had obviously a strong professional father in the military, and then you have a mother who's running a business. That's too in a place like Jaipur. Were you involved in any one of those journeys? Like, were you drawn to the carpet business post school?
Yeah. So every time, so we've been part. So we used to go because she was a single mother, and my father was not here. In the sense, he was posted everywhere else, but in Jaipur. So we used to go to the the driver used to come to the school, and we used to go to the factory afterwards, and we were in the factory. So even in our homework, even back then we used to paint the graphs. Right now it's all computer and stuff. So we used to do painting the graphs. We would go and look at the loom, look at the finishing and the washing. So we were trained. No formal training in carpets. It's just those 2-3 years of from 9th to till about 10th, 11th. That was our carpet training, and that's when we learned. And when I used to sit down, and I remember back in 81 or 82, there was a big hartal, and it was the industry back then was male dominated, and all these men. And I used to go with my mother to these carpet association meetings, and everyone was worried that wages could not go up.
Right.
So since men ended up confronting or arguing with other men, my mother was designated to go and negotiate with these mostly Muslim weavers back then. And so she kind of played the women card, and I think women still play that card. but she said, but तुम मेरे बच्चों जैसे हो, and stuff like that. She was pretty senior at that time also. So basically, I learned communication, negotiation, saying a lot with far less words. So I think my mother, observing my mother is my best learning. Of course, communication and understanding science and language and maths was cool, but worldly wise, being firm and strong yet being polite is what I learned from her. And to put across something without hurting someone or being apt in terms of what that person needs to know is something that I learned from her just by observing her.
In fact, मैं तो ये कहने वाला था कि because today Jaipur is counted as India, but that back then India would be, I mean, if you're talking from the startup parlance, Jaipur would have been Bharat.
Yes.
right? And in that times, 1970s, 80s Bharat, a woman entrepreneur, the
Yeah.
male dominated to say, but even a woman entrepreneur in Bharat was a very rare occurrence.
There were a very few. There were just 3 or 4 of them. Back then, they were all friends. And all three of them were doing very good job. And my mother was in a most labor-intensive field because back then it was all weaving. Yes, you're right, absolutely. So that was truly a Bharat, in my opinion. But it was still interesting because you see, back then you don't realize where India or where the world is going. So you think that yahi acha, yahi dunya hai. I still remember a conversation in school, in college. So one of the friends asked us, 4 of us were sitting in the lawns of the field, and he said, चलो ये बात करते हैं 10 साल बाद, what do you think you will do? I said, मैं 1 महीने का 1 लाख रुपए कमाना चाहता हूँ. Back then, that was the aspiration. Didn't even realize where the world, what value 1 lakh or 1 lakh would not have. So it's like those were the days, and that's actually Bharat for us, and that's probably happening. This conversation happening somewhere down in the village. कि मैं तो बम्बई जाके ये करना चाहता हूँ, या whatever. So that's how it works.
And what got your mother into the carpet business? Because obviously it inspired you to be part of it too.
So my father's very good childhood friend were from Punjab, Abor Fazil ka, and they said that there is a huge. They were in cotton business in Sirsa,
Acha.
and they said that there's a huge potential, and we have a few common buyers. We're importing cotton and exporting cotton. I think carpets is a good field. We'll put in the money because my father was a serviceman. He did not have the money, but we need a working partner. So we became partners with them in '73. Which went on until 81 before the cotton business died down because of some bank issues. And then we started up, then mother started on her own because they had liabilities, and then that company got shut down and we started our own company in 81.
Oh, wow. Very
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
And then your father joined the business and
He joined in 84. That's when I graduated from school, and that's when he joined. That's when he got retired.
Acha. Must have been a very interesting dynamic now to have a military man in a business.
Yeah, that was the second turning point in my life. So my father and I never got along.
Acha.
That generation was Paisa Bachao, savings account, FD, land. He made his life by saving money, and that's what their life was. And I don't blame him. And my philosophy, having realized the potential of marketing, and back then, newspaper, advertisement, outdoor, they were just getting there. And I thought that we need to be aggressive now that we're not partners with these old partners of ours. We need to stop selling to local exporters and go out to the US and export. And he would say, no, we are fine. We're making money. We're doing 25, 30 lakhs of revenue annually, and we make 3-4 lakhs and whatever.
Correct.
And kind of satisfied. And I said, no, we need to export ourselves. Why do we need to sell to them? And that was where our conflict or disagreement started. And he was a military man, so his communications were not as polite as my mother's. so that's why I did the job right after I graduated, because I did not want to stay home.
Right.
And I wanted to make my own money and tell him that I can make my own money.
I see.
But fate had it that I fought because I couldn't listen to Chutti Nahi types. So then
Maybe there was a bit of military man in you too.
quite possible. And that's when I realized that I can't do a job. I can't work with my father. So then I got an opportunity to play basketball in the US.
Acha.
So I actually, initially years, I was running away from my father. And that's what destiny took me from one place to the other. So as a basketball player here in the university, I got to coach American kids at a summer camp.
Wow.
And I went there just to coach and to go away for 3 months, chicks or ladai se or dant se bhagna padega, So I fell in love with the country. And
Where did you go to?
I went to the Poconos, Pennsylvania.
Acha.
In the Poconos, there was a summer camp called Shenawanda.
Acha.
And I was a counselor there. And I was with my Indian accent, not knowing what slangs meant, what accent meant. And I landed, my father did not buy me a ticket. My mother bought me a ticket to London, Gatwick, because there was a charter flight going with so many counselors from Europe.
Acha.
And so she bought me a round trip ticket. I think it was 16,000 back then. And I took that flight, and the first flight ever. I had never flown domestically either. So I think, so, and she went to Delhi and dropped me
What was
off.
the experience flying? Was it a direct flight to Gatwick or was it?
It was Heathrow direct,
Acha.
and then Heathrow to Gatwick, they had a shuttle.
Acha.
So it was the British Airways flight. Movies, going to St. Xavier's. There should be Sunday movies, we used to come like 2 years later. So kind of okay with that, and there were 4 or 5 of us. There was someone who did other sports, soccer and stuff. So four, five was as we were 4 or 5 were selected from India, and we were all traveling together. So it was not difficult. That was not a nightmare. When I landed in Hoboken, in New York, before we took the bus to the Poconos, I was carrying this leather suitcases. You know how mothers love packs into a suitcase. So I was it was tough. There were no wheels back then, and I was carrying these two suitcases, and I was pretty strong and sturdy because of my basketball. This black guy comes to me and says, "Hey mate, you need help?" I said, "Sure." I said, "He's going to help me." So he takes me about 100 meters to where we stayed at the YMCA for one night before we were taken in the buses. So I reached there and said, $10. I said, $10. So then I realized in the US, when you say you need help, means you have to pay for that help. So it's like a help is a help. And I did not know that. And I didn't have money. So he let me go. I mean, but still my learning started there. And that's how, then of course the kids, I had 7 and 8 year old kids teaching basketball. They were all rich kids, all Jewish. I was a Jewish camp. And they were spoiled, and I had a funny accent back then. And I had a mustache. So they used to, Maha, Maha, they used to call me and stuff like that. So first 2 weeks were tough.
Acha.
Then I became friends with them. And then I realized that I was far more honest, diligent with what I was doing. And I could see where there was a kid crying. So I was there for them. And they realized, and I developed a bond with them in the first 2 to 3 weeks. And that's when, the upbringing of our Indian society and culture, where you care for people. Americans are like, hey, you sit down. They're very to the point.
Yep.
That I'll count till 3. You're not moving out. You're staying here. But with us, we try to convince people, and I think that is what helped me get there. We have a 8-week camp. So there's the parents come and meet their kids on a Sunday, and 4 weeks later, and I was the only counselor that got the most tips. Someone gave me $20, someone gave me $10. And back then, I got about 400. I mean, for the entire 8 weeks, I was going to be paid $400. I got tips worth $800 just on that Sunday.
Wow.
And not only from my bunk, but from all of the entire junior category, because I was teaching the entire basketball team. And because the kids were so much in love, and the camp director noticed it, I was amazed. So there were Olympics that happened on the 7th week of this thing, where 3 teams are formed, and I was made the captain. And I was, I just became so confident because of the children who taught me all the nuances of American English, and you can blip this, but they taught me what's the difference in holy cow, holy shit, cow, bullshit, all kinds of, they taught me all of these things, and I became very good friends with them, and I'm still good friends with them. So that was my learning in communications and English, and the confidence that it gave me in compared to others.
And you must have really loved that, because you stayed back in the US for a while.
Yeah, so I know that time I came, so 3 weeks visa, or 3 months visa, 2 months at the camp, and 1 month they give you. So we went to Niagara Falls, we went to New York City. So when I was walking the New York City, I saw so many rug dealers, and that thing clicked with me. I told my father we should export. So I went into 4-5 stores, and I said, we can manufacture. And of course I knew in and out of the carpets, and I could communicate, and they said, very good, we'll buy from you. So I came back to India.
Acha.
And said that we will export to these things. So I got my samples made and stuff like that. But my father and I did not get along, because obviously when you sell domestically, you get paid in 10-50 days, whereas you're selling overseas, it's long. So long story short, I was not allowed to export.
Acha.
And then the camp called me, and they were so happy with me that we want to make you a counselor, which is meaning that you will be a group leader, and you will be having about 20 counselors under you, and we want you to come to the same camp. So again, next year I went to the same camp, and I was determined that I will not come back. So after those 8 weeks of great summer camp, I went and I met a few carpet people, and I found a carpet person who said, we would need someone who could work for us.
Acha.
We'll give you this much salary, $200 a week, and 10% equity.
Wow.
And that's where I realized that's a great idea. Came back, applied for so that was J1. That's a work visa that you used to get. Now I had to get B1, B2. And so that's another story. So I came back and said, I'm coming back and joining you in 2 months. I applied for my B1, B2. I went there with all the papers, my degree, my land papers, etc. Again, in defiance to my father. with my mother supporting me, and went to the US Embassy, and I was denied visa because I was all of 21, that you will get married and you will never come back. You know, that American thing. Is it fine? So back then you could go, there was no appointment, so I could go. So the second day I went again with some more land papers and stuff that I've seen. I'm the only, we're two brothers, and I'll be coming back in it. I was refused again. And if you refuse 3 times, you can't apply for 6 months.
Yeah.
So I was so determined. I went again for the third day. And you get different counselor every day. So the third day, the counselor said, "Why are you coming back again and again? We are very sure that you'll get married." I said, "You don't understand. I have to prove it to my mother, and with tears in my eyes, that I will export my own carpets and I will do that. But your mother is all of 54. She's very young." I said, "You don't understand. 54 in India is not young. A mother in India thinks uska beta bane, not, of course in English." So that just worked. And he gave me a visa for
Wow.
1 year. And I went there. So it was just pure fixation, determination, you may call it passion.
Yeah.
I was so sure that I have to go. And then I went to the US, and I really was there for 6 years. In 3 years, I sold my equity. I started my own company. For 3 years, I imported that. And as destiny would have it, my mother passed away and I had to come back. But that's how it is. I went because of her. I came back because of her. So it doesn't really matter.
And during your time there, were you come back to India very often?
Yeah. So I used to come back to India, buy rugs,
Acha.
wholesale. So I was wholesaling. So I was buying from my own factory. I was buying from other people every 3-4. So it was, I never thought that I would need a green card and I'll move to the US. I used to come back every 3-4 months, spend a few weeks here, buy stuff here, go to Srinagar and buy Srinagar, go to Varanasi and buy those carpets. I was even importing from China back after that. So it was just back and forth. So twice a year, I used to come back and buy my stuff and go and wholesale. And I did pretty well with all of that.
And how was the carpets business doing until then? The one.
Carpet business are doing very well. So Germany, 92, I think unification happened, and the Iran-Iraq war happened. So those were the tough times. Other than that, I think we pretty much did very well. We made money here because my brother was exporting these carpets to us.
Your brother started exporting.
My brother was a year and a half younger than me, so he had joined business by then, and he was tougher than I was. I was a more coy or a scared kind of a kid, so I used to run away from father. But he handled my father well, and he used to export, and I used to import, and we did wholesale, and that's how.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And my mother was doing that, and then one day I got a call that your mother is not well, because back then there were no this thing. So I was on the road somewhere, and my roommate called me and said, "Ke tu वापस आ रहा है क्या?" मैंने कहा, "क्या हो गया?" कहते आंटी की तबीयत ठीक नहीं. So I came back, and then they did not tell me while I was driving that she's no more, but I had to come back.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Must have been tough.
It was tough. It was very tough, and I came back, and I realized that I have to be back here in India. My brother said, "I can't handle dad alone, so you come." And by then, my father had quite mellowed down a lot. He realized what I had done, or what both us brothers had done. So he was more quieter. He let us be. We were older. I was 28. My brother was 26. So, or 27 and 25. So it was much, much better. And so it worked okay. His interference was less, and all three of us lived happily from there on for a few years. Yeah.
And by the time you left the US, though, US was booming.
US was absolutely booming. So I was not able to sell my business. I still had merchandise. So I used to go there, but still I gradually in the next year or two, I sold everything.
Okay.
But I put the stuff in a warehouse. I cut my overheads in the US basically.
And then you also tried to diversify into jewelry as well.
Yeah, so then I'll give this credit to my father. In 92, when carpets were not doing well, my father said you should never depend on one business or one line. And Jaipur is known for gemstones. I think we should do gemstones also. And since you are there, why don't you? So while in the US, I started to work on colored stones. Emeralds was the thing from Jaipur back then. So I started to take some emeralds with me and sell it to wholesalers. Quite a few Indians from Jaipur were doing this already. So it was not difficult. And I started to sell it to jewelry stores. So whichever city I went to sell carpets, I used to find a jeweler also. So 93, 94, I did some of that also.
Pure play cold calling.
Absolutely cold calling and walk-ins, no phones. I mean, and that time yellow pages and big atlas with no Google, So that was something very, very interesting and fun.
Wonderful. And then you move back to India now.
And then we start because I had both jewelry buyers and my competitors became my buyers
Acha.
because then they could trust me. And back then in India, every exporter would say ho jayega, kar denge, we'll send it, and they were not sure of the timelines. And because I had been in the US for 6 years, I realized the value of time, of what you have committed and what should you say that I'll be there by 10, at 10, around 10 are three different meanings. And Indians के तो 10 का मतलब है 10:30 11 and I used to get very frustrated when I used to go to the bank here कि भाई 10 बजे का टाइम है तो 10:30 तो they come and they're shaking hands with everyone and then पौने 11 चाय आ रही है and then 11 o'clock they start to work. So it was very frustrating initially, but the Americans trusted me and I was able to give quality, timely delivery. So they all became my buyers. So that's when both my brother and I exported.
Wonderful. So and like, because many people obviously today, even today, I see pitches. We both see pitches that they are trying to copy some American model. Now you've done entrepreneurship in the US, so have I. 90s mein, what US you could do as an entrepreneur in the US, what I could do as an entrepreneur in 2010 in the US, I don't think in the Indian ecosystem I can do that even today, right? And yet people want to copy. But it'd be great to hear when you move back to India, because this is just post-liberalization India, 94, 95.
Yes.
We were still dealing with a lot of license Raj. Yes.
Absolutely.
92 mein dream budget, all that, 91 dream budget, all that happened. But honestly, I don't think till 2015, 16, the shackles were really removed.
No.
And even today we have issues, but compared to what? So when you came back to India, must have been a real shocker to be in Bharat, India, by the way, running a venture, and where उस वक्त में ना उद्योगपति मतलब चोर है.
I agree.
Right? So dealing with that in a banking system, just tell us about that experience.
So the banking was tough, and I remember dealing with the banks and the pace that they worked was very difficult. Then luckily a bank opened an overseas only branch. So there was no retail banking and they were given targets. So we moved to that branch and it was still better than what other banking was. But frustrating was the customs department, because it was everything we were looked out as doubt.
Yeah.
And back then there was no income tax on exports. So we was 100% free. So if I was buying something for $10 and it's selling out $20, all that $10
Oh, wow.
was free. And so everyone thought, oh, he's over invoicing and then he will send money through a different route and get the money back and he's adding to his capital. Not me, but all exporters.
Right.
Because then they would used to judge you and you used to get a lot of license. We used to get a lot of duty drawbacks. There was lots of incentives for exports because we were about to sell our gold back then. So exporters were like really looked upon very well. And income tax was not a threat because there was no income tax. We can do whatever returns. Customs looked at us with doubt in terms of trying to get anyone's black money changed to.
Correct. Right.
Yeah. So that is where the challenge was. But other than that, I don't think it was as difficult in terms of you get used to it. Transport will take 1 week. People will take 1 week. But it was not anguish or frustration, but the fact that you get used to it and you work your way around it.
And then how long did this journey, like 95, before you started to think about angel investing?
That happened in very late, 2010,
Okay.
11. Quick fast forward from 95 to 2008, I lost my brother in 1998. I mean, we have a family history of cardiac arrest. So my mother passed away at 62, 63, cardiac. My brother was 28. And he died in my arms. I'd gone to Atlanta for a show and I come back and he was sitting in the office in front of me. I was telling him what colors, designs, and he just fainted. And I mean, he used to smoke and stuff like that. So I really had to single-handedly, then I realized, difficult because he was a creative guy. He was the designer. He was the colors and and I was the salesperson or the marketing guy. So to understand his forte or get into this was not easy. So 99, 2000, I was able to handle the business, that I was realizing that I'm losing my touch on the trends of colors and design because I'm not that person. He was the creative guy. Then I realized, and how much can I do single-handedly? My father was retired, was almost 75 or 80 at that point. I was not married because I did not get married after my mother, mujhe shaadi nahi karni and stuff, because we were looking at girls at that point. And then I was about to think again and my brother passed away. So I just got aversion from marriage. So I was trying to um, get into a situation where I will not be able to run jewelry and carpets. So I started to kind of become an angel or a VC. I got a guy who was a manufacturing jewelry. I'll invest all the money. You handle it. I'll sell. You manufacture. I got a couple of my cousins to work for the carpet business. That you handle the production. You do this. So I started to kind of give, and not on salary, but on equity.
Acha.
Back in 99, 2000, both these companies were run like that. And I did pretty well for the next 4 or 5 years. The US economy was thriving. India was doing well. Everything was doing well. And things were moving, in the right direction, but we were not growing as a pace that we were growing when my brother was around, which is okay. Then I realized that I can't grow vertically in these two for very long. I have to diversify horizontally. So in 2003-4, we started an event management company. So actually, because we were successful exporters, there was this movement where we had to join a non-profit called Jaipur Virasat Foundation, which is trying to preserve the folk arts and the visual arts and the build heritage of Jaipur in 2002. And I was pulled into it.
Acha.
It's a non-profit. It was a trust. And quite a few, in Anokhi family started,
Right.
Faith and John started it. Maharaj Gat Singh Ji was a trustee. Quite a few people, senior people. And I was just the volunteer there. Then I realized that I have great management skills. And we did a festival at the Ram Nivas Bagh here. We did a Jodhpur festival. We started the literature festival. And all of that management, because of my communication and travels and the management. So I realized, Edward, from you're so good at management, why don't you start an event management company? I said, fine, I'll do that. So I had someone else headed that, and I became that. So we started to do event management. Then, of course, marketing and emails back then were important. So one of my cousins just exited, was working for Hindustan Times. He says, I'm quitting my job, but yeah, I want to do this. So I invested, and we started a marketing and communications.
So technically, these are all sort of.
So I was, from two, I had four verticals, four different people working, and I was dabbling between all four and leading or deciding where it goes. And then TIE happened in 2002, 2003. And I was forced to become a member of TIE. I said, what is TIE going to do? I mean, it's a tech company, Silicon Valley. I have never been to Silicon Valley. All of this was happening from 2002 to 2006. All four things were working, and I was passive in TIE. 2008, they said, now you have to become the president. By force, I was made TIE Rajasthan president. I said, this TIE Rajasthan will now die. You do 10 events. I will not even able to do that also. And true to my word, I did not do anything in my 2 years of my term. 4 months prior to my term was getting over. TIE Global decides that this year's retreat will happen in India. And it's either Infosys campus in Mysore or it's Jaipur. Now, event management, hotel industry, craft, performing arts, no one could beat me on delivering the best retreat ever in 2009. And I suddenly became a celebrity globally. Ki ye kaun hai? And from Saurabh Srivastava to Sanjeev Bikhchandani to Deep, all of these people were here, and they all became very good friends. And I suddenly realized, and that time we were doing 10 crores of exports, both carpet and jewelry, and we were making 1 crore a year. मैं पागल हूँ, सुबह 9 बजे फैक्ट्री में जाता हूँ, 9 बजे तक काम करता हूँ, लेबर से माथा लगाता हूँ, 4 जगह भागता हूँ, एंड में 1 करोड़ कमाता हूँ. ये साले 2002-3 में शुरू किया और नैस्डैक पर लिस्ट हो गए दोनों के दोनों. And I tell them that. And I said, boss, I am in the wrong business. I have to be in the tech business. And I was elevated. And then I was so popular. I ran for the board. I became a trustee in 2011, the global board. And I said, I have to become an angel investor. And that's when we formed Rajasthan Angels.
Wow.
And that's when I started to angel invest. And I mellowed down my carpet, my jewelry, everything got slowed down. And this, slowly I learned. And that's where
you were prolific as an investor. You're making it, but what a journey to start and to pivot, right? It must have been a difficult decision.
Very difficult decision. So it was gradual. I mean, I was slowing down on carpets and jewelry, though both carpets and jewelry were doing very well. Both these people who were handling it, and I used to do all the shows I used to do, and purchases I used to do, manufacturing and color design they were doing very good. So I continued to do that. I did not discourage them, but my time was being spent on understanding the startup ecosystem, traveling for TIE, because I was on the global board. So 4 years on the board from 2011 to 14, I was at every TIECon in Silicon Valley. I was at TIECon Delhi. I was listening to people. I was speaking at sessions, and I was investing and losing money also, 10 lakhs, 5 lakhs, 25 lakhs back then. But it was much more learning. And then 2016, 17, I decided, and I got we got two exits, 4x in 3-4 years. And that's when I decided this is where I need to be. And then full time 2016, 17, I started to look at it fully. And then it's when every year I used to make many more.
And I want to get into that journey because not only have you done investing, but you've also made it almost like I said, like almost an Elvis type of art. You've been on a few shows. We're going to get into that. But I wanted to talk, but like when you started investing and you started evaluating ventures for the first time, was there a difference between what you thought ventures are going to be run like because of your own experience and then what you were seeing coming to you?
Yeah, so I'll tell you, it was different. It is not easy, and you will agree with me that as much as we mentor and teach these young startups and these co-founders, they teach us equally. And all I tell my investee companies is that when I say something, don't take it, debate, argue, let's discuss. And even in my own companies, I do that because the free hand that you have and putting point of views across, and even in saying that, fine, I'll do this, but I don't agree with this, I'll go with you. And so that gives more responsibility to the co-founders. And that is something that I learned, that I was as learning as much as I was teaching. And I think that is what is the key to the whole thing. So I do teach a lot, but I learn a lot.
And do you remember your first pitch?
First pitch that I heard?
Yeah.
You will not believe it. The first or second pitch was Razorpay.
Oh, really?
They came to us in at Rain, they back then they had a small device that goes into the USB of a laptop where you put your card or slide your card. And I was not a techie, and there were other people on the IC who were sitting there, and they were engineers from MNIT, and one was IIT. बेकार है ये तो चलेगी नहीं क्या इसमें तो ये तो it's not, you can't compete with Master and Visa and Amex and Diners and stuff like that. Maybe they are right. फिर भी मैंने उसको बोला, मैंने कहा okay, we'll invest 50 lakhs at whatever valuation, 5 crores or 10 crores.
Would have been an insane number.
Yeah. So they said, no sir, we need some other valuation. They wanted 2x of what we were offering them or something like that. I said, and we were negotiating. Suddenly they stopped responding. Suddenly I come to know that they've been selected in Y Combinator and now they're worth. So that is a regret that I have. Similarly, Zostel came to us 8th or 10th time. Again, I said, no, Ritesh is a good friend. I think Oyo will kill Zostel. So there are many regrets and those initial days. But many, as I said, we had good 4x exits. So those 3-4 years were a great learning of where to invest, where not to invest, and few mistakes and few rights. But I think that's everyone's journey because it was absolutely new. I did not understand technology. All I had a gut feeling on entrepreneurship, and then I stopped listening to these techies. I said, I'll go with what my heart says, and I continue to do that then beyond that.
And when you start thinking about, did you start developing a framework of what we're going to invest in? Because you must have understood now that the business part and tech is two different things.
So the framework was very simple. It's still very simple. If I can play a role in terms of advising or mentoring or handholding or taking them to the next step, I invest. If I don't understand a domain, I don't invest. For making money is not difficult. Stock market is there, land and gold and so many other investments you can make. For me, this was more passion. This was more changing lives of young, bright students who did not have the money, or startup founders, changing the landscape of Rajasthan, India, Bharat, as you may call it, because I saw that there's a future. For me, it was proving to, all my life I have been proving to people. And also proving to people who did not take this domain as an investment as seriously as it deserved in 2015-16. It was a huge euphoria and many people valuations were high back then, but people were looking at it as a bubble, which in a way it was, but still people who were realistic, I never gave high valuations and I was never FOMO'd by someone is giving me 10 crores, why are you giving me 5 crore valuations? Go to him because you deserve that, and which is fine. So my point is that proving to the world and incidentally also making money are the multiple reasons why I wanted to do this and not do just make money. So that's why I'm still today, I don't invest in companies. I don't invest because a fund is investing 2 million, so I can invest 100K and I will have an exit for sure. That is not my philosophy. I would rather invest in the stock market and do that. My philosophy is to play a critical role in the journey of the co-founders, understand the domain, see if we can make the difference in their lives, in whatever impact that they're creating in terms of digitizing India or scaling up or getting to a product. And that's how that remains my core and my philosophy still.
And what was the trigger then 16, 17 to go full time into Angel and then stop everything?
Two exits.
Yeah.
Those two exits were
Let's talk about those exits.
yeah. So one was this a tech company based out of Jaipur. 4 IIT graduates started it. It did very well. In 3-4 years, we had a 4x exit. I was very encouraged by that. Then there was a skill upgradation company, which I did not. I still don't have. I've not exited the company, but I got a partial exit, which was 3x of what my whole investment was, and I'm still invested in the company because they don't want me to leave the company, so I'm still on the cap table. But those two companies, both Jaipur based, gave me the confidence and the courage, and that recovered all the investment that I had done till then. So I was zero, and I still had money. So I think then I realized that if I can do 4 to 5 investments in a year, and have at least 20-25 companies by 2020, I should be okay. And that's where the journey started.
I like the realistic number of 4 to 5 companies a year, because I've heard family offices and other angels who talk about doing 70, 80 investments a year.
I tell these people, and and you and I have been on panels with them where I have 100 investments, I have 200 investments. So 10 lakhs of investment in 100 companies and 1 crore investment in 10 companies, the same amount. But I have the other philosophy that I have is I can be a co-lead or a lead. I'm never a passive investor. Because I'm giving the first check or second check, I have to be the lead or co-lead. I mean, at par or the maximum amount. I would not just put in money because everyone else is putting in money. Like as I said, making money because someone said this is good and I'm telling you to invest is not. It's a turn off for me. For me is that okay, you need 100 rupees and I'll give you 50 or 60, and someone else can give you 50, 60, or 5 others can give you 50. But I have to give you the maximum amount, and I have to be on the board as an observer or directly, and we have to have quarterly meetings because I really feel that is where the real change or the impact happens, and that is why I've been successful as I have been, or whatever all of us have been. I think.
In fact, I would really want to ask you the why, because and I've had to explain this many times, that why is it so important, and to your point, like that you have to ensure that there is good governance right from the start, there is a good habits created right from the start, and the second part being FOMO. Don't, because there is FOMO, because hota kya hai, and it happens. I recently closed a fund and I was telling my team that just watch what happens when we get to the last 10%. Right? As soon as you get to 90%, there is just so much FOMO. You start getting phone calls from everybody, "Arre, मुझे भी डालना है, मुझे भी डालना है." So I said कि this happens. Now we have to understand this is human nature. But as you become good investors, and I think a part of it probably also comes from A, you being in the US, B, you also being a salesperson yourself. So when you can create FOMO, you can also recognize FOMO in yourself.
Absolutely.
Right?
So that is very important. You should never get. I mean, I always tell my startups or other investors two things. One, never get FOMO, because what you will make money here or there if you're at it continuously. The other thing, on the compliances and governance part, I tell them that as founders at startups, or we as investors, are flag bearers of this investment vertical.
Correct.
If for every housing or Go Mechanic or other companies, we take down 100 other companies and trust of so many other investors who would not invest. And if you do this, we will not be doing justice. We trust you with our money. We're a small minority in your company. All we're telling you is that be honest. Tell your shortcomings and your flaws or wrongs. Say, we have not filed the GST return for 1 year. Say that upfront. Be honest and correct it. Because in India's startup ecosystem is so nascent at this point, in terms of Indian startups and Indian investors.
Correct.
All these funds coming from outside are here to exploit. They exploit the stock market. They'll come, they'll go, they'll leave. But all of us are flag bearers, and we have to be very, very conscious of the fact, even us as investors, as GPs, we are so much answerable to these LPs who've trusted us for 8 to 10 years to give them the returns that they deserve. So if we are not honest and diligent in where we're investing, and we take money and just invest left, right, center because we want to finish the cycle, it will not work. It is not good in the long term.
That's
And whether I do a 150 crore fund or you do a 500 crore fund, tomorrow we will do a few thousand crore funds because India has to be self-reliant. So this is just a journey in that direction, and we have to be responsible. So that's always, I mean, on stage, off stage, I've been saying that, and I say that, and I continue to feel that this is the most important thing we ever do.
And now, I mean, you must have seen the boom that happened in 2021, and obviously a lot of people extended themselves. I feel a lot of excess money went into the ecosystem. Founders had massive, I mean, 120 unicorns or whatever we had. Many of them, I think, at least 10-12%, though, aaj ki date mein I would say, is in some way of eternal decline or eternal shutdown. Now, I feel that there is a new style of entrepreneurship coming up, which has now seen two cycles. 15-16 was a cycle that I saw because after OYO, we had this immediate cycle where housing, everybody got funded.
Yeah.
And you have a pulse, you get funded, right? And then you had that down cycle, then this second up cycle, down cycle. And in this, you've decided to go back to your entrepreneurial roots, right? And now Swishin Ventures is what you started. So tell me a little bit about this venture and what you're doing with it.
So I was thinking of doing a fund in 2021 also, because I thought I could do it. All my friends were doing it. You were doing it. Many others were doing it, and I thought I should. But COVID hit. I said, let's wait. Then, of course, 21, 22 happened, and winter. So रुक जाते. So then it got delayed. But I always wanted to do a fund number one. But last year, I finally decided a year ago that, or maybe a little more, that I should do a fund. Now, of course, my philosophy of solo GP was not the philosophy. I needed some GP, so I met many people. I almost finalized two GPs. One didn't work out because he was in the US. The other GP decided that she wanted to pursue masters at Columbia and do something rather than be a GP, which is fine. They're still good friends, but I decided, no, I think I'm destined to be a single GP because I think my philosophy or my work style or whatever. So that's when we applied last year and got approval this year. And that is how this journey has started, because I want to now scale up and go to a different level. Also, I've made immense amount of money, partial exits and full exits, that I want everyone else to make money. Also, I feel the future, the next 10 years in India is startups and technology, and we have to be at the right place. And this is something that I can do until 90. I don't have to run around.
Even beyond Mahavir.
Well, I don't know, but I mean, this is something that you can do forever, rather than, I shut down the jewelry business in 22. I mean, I rather gave it away and shut it. I've not almost shut down the events side of it. So that's why I said I'm fully on the fund. Carpets is almost dwindling down to a very minuscule level. So I think that is where I want to be, and I think that's where I see the future in India. Future, this thing, and the brand and experience that we've created, people like you and me, I think we are at the right place at the right time, and we should do it. And so that's why I'm still focusing on my good early stage, idea stage companies only, small to medium checks, follow on. Same philosophy, I'm not changing, and I don't think in 35 also I'll go into a growth stage fund. I will still do this stage only, even no matter what the size of the fund is. I would rather impact a large number of people across India than put in 5 million in one company.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of this is, I think you're trying to institutionalize what you've obviously learned.
Yes.
And interesting, both of us have a common history. Both of us have sold in the US. Both of us done B2B sales, hardcore door knocking. I don't think this kind of experience happens anywhere in the world. I think we went to the US in a very interesting time. I think I'm 15 years behind you, but where you could actually knock on someone's door and talk to them.
Yes.
I don't know today, but I would not be very.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think we can do that now. Yeah.
Yeah, and also I think most of the communication has moved to email, online. I think it's LinkedIn.
That's social media.
But as you institutionalize, right, and you start thinking, now this is not just my money; it is managing money of other people. How do you ensure that success that made you successful as an angel, how do you translate that into a success as an institution? Because there is and I'm sure you're realizing there is a difference. Because suddenly, I felt it when I was making my first investment, that there was this additional sense of responsibility, which I did not know I would feel at the time of writing the check, because it was no longer my money anymore.
Yeah.
Or just the family's money. It was now
Well,
money of people I don't
So I'm yet to write a check from the fund. I'm still warehousing because we haven't done the first close. But you're right. Even when I'm raising money now, and it's not easy with the stock market doing so well and people making 20-30% anyways in the last 1 year. People see that as why would they block their money? So even convincing people of this asset class and showing them the passion, the will that this is going to make more money in the long run is not easy.
Right.
And as I said from day one, I've been trying to I get very I mean, I have this inbuilt anger inside me when someone challenges me. And when someone challenges me, I get to a point where I have to prove myself. And in this, and I think I'm investing, I mean, money making is different, but I think we have to prove this asset class as the best asset class 10 years down the line. When people show me graphs of mutual funds, of the stock market, of gold, of land prices, and I tell them, boss, you're fine. I have land, I have gold, I have funds. But I'll tell you, if every 100 rupee that you invest in this asset class today, 10 years down the line will be far more than what you invest, and I can prove. So it's now for me to institutionally prove that this is doable. And of course, I can't do it singly. So people like you, all the other people in the IVCA or any other organization that we're part of, angel networks, we actually have to collectively prove, because we should not take this money lightly. And that's, again, I think, responsible behavior, because we should give them returns which are much more than all the other asset classes.
Has to be.
To make a future for India. I've said this before, I'll say this again. The stock market, if you remember back then, as soon as the FIIs invested, the market went up. They exited, the market went down. Now it doesn't matter if they exit or enter, because Indian retail investor has taken over the stock markets in India. They don't care. Of course, world trends do influence, but money is not a reason.
Correct.
In our asset class, Series C, D, and above are still being controlled by funds outside of India.
That's true.
So all of us have to graduate into that situation, so that Indian money, money will come across the globe, but we should be self-reliant in that. And that is the point that I want to prove to the world.
And also, I think when you look at Flipkart, and the stat, I think, was like 85% of Flipkart's upside went outside the country.
Yes.
Right? Created an asset for the country, and we didn't get a benefit of it.
Exactly.
So it tells you a lot about...
Even now, if PhonePe or Amazon, all these companies, I mean, what are they? I mean, they're not, I mean, Uber, you name all these companies that are doing so well or competing with Indian companies. We have to prove. I have to prove.
Now, why the name Swishin?
When we started the event company, I wanted to do things in a swish.
Achha.
So, which is delivery on time. And I'm very punctual. I was here at 11:03. So I wanted to be...
we write 10:03.
Sorry. 10:03, yeah. Sorry, I was here at 10:03, and that is because I was surprised that there's no road and mitti ke sadak hai, main sahi to aa gaya hu. And then she called. So I paused for 1 minute. So I'm very punctual. So I wanted to do things in the swish. So I put swish, and then I realized that swish had my son and my sons are called Krish and Kavin.
Achha.
Because I was in the US and I had Mahavir Pratap Sharma, so no one could call Mahavir. So I said, I will keep my son's name very small, and similar to what American names are, but I will keep traditional Indian names. So Krish is, of course, Krishna, or a Krishi and a Krish, and Kavin means lean and handsome, and they're both in Hindi dictionary. So I said 5 word, whether it's Kevin or Chris, doesn't matter, but they're Krish and Kavin. So Swish had Krish in it, the ish in it, and so I said maybe I can add the in and have swishin, and with an apostrophe without the G. So swishing.
Right.
So the G out and swish, I kept it under my son's name. And
very interesting.
Yeah.
So tell us about this fund. That your focus seems to be tier 2, tier 3, and where you've really been strong and good.
So that's another clarity that I need to give. So my focus is tier 2, tier 3. That does not mean startups from tier 2, tier 3 city. Even if startups are from Delhi, Bombay, but they're impacting tier 2, tier 3 India, I would be investing in them. I think India's all sectors, fintech, agritech, any sector that you take, they have already entered the metro or the tier 1 cities.
Correct.
The future growth for them is all in tier 2, tier 3 and rural India.
Correct.
So might as well look at startups that will be relevant to that Bharat, to that India. So I am trying to focus on that. And I have made my money on startups that are impacting the larger India, whether it's fintech, whether it's edtech, whether it's consumer products. Everything that I have done is because of that. So I personally thought that this is the right thing to do.
Correct.
And I think that is the mission. If I have to, because, and as I said, money is not the only reason why I'm doing this. So I want to help the ecosystem at large. And I've traveled to Bhubaneswar. I mean, small cities in Orissa, in Bihar, and all of us have speaking for TAI or for government bodies or colleges or universities. I realize a huge potential, a huge urge to succeed.
True.
And the founders who have that urge will succeed. People who become complacent will fail. And that's why I'm betting on them.
I feel like, to your point also, that the new ideas, because I think in our urban India, challenges have become very different. They're no longer those challenges that once UPI came in, a lot of the urban payment challenges are now solved. But there's new challenges in this massive part of India that has so far not had a very massive spotlight on it, mostly dealt through government programs, where there is a real person who has a real issue, a real problem to solve, and their problem to solve actually affects tens of millions of hundreds of millions of people.
That's the reason why. That's it. The scale is much, much higher, much larger. And that's where I want to be, and that's where I think the future is.
And in terms of your fund, you want to obviously be you've always been the first investor, but then you're also putting money towards follow-on. Is there a strategy?
So 150 crores, I will invest in about 35 companies, 100 crores. 50 crores is a follow-on.
And headquarters being in Jaipur.
Headquarters is Jaipur, with 20 days outside of Jaipur.
Now, interesting, just to understand that, there is just some amazing ventures now coming out of, I think Gem Pandit recently, there's a transaction which in which it got sold. Genius Power has done really well over here. I think there's been a bunch of
Minimalist,
Car Dekho. So what about this land? Because let me be fair, Marwadis come from Rajasthan. I think they have a large part of India's GDP that has been created by them. But there is something about this land. What is it that makes Jaipur and Rajasthan?
So I'll tell you, even when I was investing in the boom 16, 17, 18, I was never a fan of high revenues and bad bottom lines in world. I understand the game plan. I understand they will have market dominance and be large companies, but I was always very sure of bottom. And I think Rajasthan is a dhanda.
Right.
They see what is the profit? What is the money that I save at the end of the day? Is my time being valued? Because it's very easy to buy for 10 and sell for 20. But is my time worth 10 rupees only? Or my time's worth is much more and I can do a lot more. So they are real, absolutely. If you sit besides a Marwadi or you sit besides the right businessman, no matter what community, they will tell you the nitty-gritties of a P&L that it should be. And realistically, I mean, and it's very important that you have money, you have interest. And if your income tax return is all interest income, then you're actually not doing anything.
Correct.
You might as well retire. So it's very important. I think this is what is very clear in startups now, because the bottom line has become important. I think startups in Jaipur and Rajasthan has always been like that. They've never flaunted or burnt money. It's only when startups left Jaipur and went to Bangalore for follow-on rounds, they were pushed by these VCs to push, because back then the numbers and the top line was more important. And I think which is fine in a way, but I think that people who stayed back in Jaipur very, very conscious of what they're spending, overheads, cost of employees, everything they were doing. And I think a city like Jaipur, which has access to the world, which has a very good quality of life, work-life balance, commute is low, rentals are low, your operation cost is low. So generally speaking, all these people who stayed back were conscious of the fact that it doesn't matter where you are, making money at the end of the day is more important. And that is where this brings.
And where are you sourcing most of your founders from?
They come from all over. We are chased. People like you and me are chased. We get 10 deals a day. I have a good team. We look at deals. I think because of my travel, because of my tie, because of by speaking at various colleges and competitions, I get mobbed by early stage, early stage startups. And many of them are not investment ready. So we tell them to come back after 6 months, 8 months, 9 months. But it's not difficult to get good deals, even co-investment deals, because I've been in the ecosystem for 13, 14 years. So people do come that would you invest, and so those things keep happening.
And so when a founder is approaching you today, founders who are listening in, they want to approach you, what should they be prepared with before they approach Swishin or Mahavir?
I think, like all of us, they need to be very, very clear on what they want to do
Got it.
or what they're doing. I think clarity is something very, very important. And you know that you and I are masters at telling them that this is what you're doing wrong or this is what you're not doing right. We might be right or wrong, but we're judging them. How sure they are of what they're doing, or how do they realize what they're doing is wrong. And so basically, when when they talk to us, if they're clear and confident about what they're doing, they will be able to convince us. But if they are confused, and we can confuse them more, they'll have to come back to us when they're clearer. So it's just, I think, so long as you know what you're doing, you know what your competition is doing, you know where the revenues are coming from or will come from, you know where we want to be 1 year, 2 year, 3 year down the line, then you come to me with that clarity, and that is what we need.
And today, like when you look at Swishin 1, right? And obviously there'll be a Swishin 2 and a Swishin 3. What's the dream now, Mahavir? I mean, we're sitting in 2025. Let's talk like you were saying 10 years later, right? अब 1 लाख रुपया महीने की तो बात नहीं कर सकते. So let's talk about what's the dream.
I really want to do a fund after fund. I really want to invest and create great companies. I don't run after numbers. I've never worried about the grades that I get or my sons get, so long as they're learning the art of learning. I don't care about unicorns. I just need as many companies to be successful to succeed and grow year on year and create path-breaking solutions or products for the world. And if I can be recognized as someone who's helped create those 100 odd companies in India across sectors, I'd be more than happy. In this journey, I have limited funds. The funds will have to come from everyone else. Also, to become, I've been lucky to have achieved the top positions in every sector that I've been. I would want to be known as a good investor, fair investor, who's been honest to his investors, who's been honest to the startups, and who's created wealth for everyone.
That's a very noble goal.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I'll make money and enjoy my life too. But that's a byproduct. If everyone makes money, you and I will obviously make money.
I think, and it's really important to remember, and I say this to all the new investors that we hire and we're training to become fund managers for us, that remember, if you don't find fun. In fact, I got a message from one of our LPs this morning after we wired the money last night. He said, "Ki, you sent a message last night at 1 o'clock and now you're up talking to me at 7. How do you do this?" And I said, "You know what? It doesn't seem like work, right? It's not work. I'm not on anyone's clock.
Yeah.
Right? This is just pure passion." And I said, and that's what I tell other fund managers, and I tell other even family offices that suddenly want to raise funds, that please understand, this is not an opportunistic play. You have signed up for a 10-year journey,
Yes.
not a 1-year journey. Right? क्योंकि एक बार आपने फंड शुरू किया 10 साल तक तो आपको नॉन स्टॉप खेलना ही है वो गेम.
Absolutely.
Right? And if you in year 5 or 4 or 5 don't have second fund, team is gone. So now you're the only one playing the game. Right? So I said, there is not passion in investing. If you don't really enjoy talking to founders,
Oh, yeah.
dealing with they frustrate you, they excite you, they put you over the moon, and they sometimes bury you right 25 feet under.
Yeah. But I think that is all very, very, absolutely. I just enjoy doing this. I really get so excited and so energetic doing this, that it's really good. And I think like how you're educating through this channel, I think I go live and do all of that. And I think this is basically, we want more and more people like us to come, more and more startups to come, because we need to grow this at a much faster rate than we have right now. Right.
And in fact, what I love is that you've also been on TV, right? You were Horses Stable. I think we were supposed to do one show together.
Never happened.
Trial as well.
Never happened. Yeah.
Yeah. But is this all part? I know. First of all, let me be clear. You have like this amazing personality. You should be on TV. But I was gonna say, like, you're this active movement that you really want people to learn why and how they should invest in startups. Is that something coming from somewhere?
As I said, I'm just proving to people that this asset class is a great asset class. But I think communication and my personality, and I just talk with passion. I just cannot fake it. And I get so involved with whatever I do. So I think being on television, being on blogs or physical sessions is just natural. And just seeing that if you can make an iota of a difference in some people in the crowd, it's something that is achieved. And that's something that we have to give back to the society. I think any knowledge that you and I might have is worthless if we keep it to ourselves. So the more we share, the more it grows, because that is what I feel. And I personally feel that everyone should be investing in startups.
Wonderful and wonderful. I think Mahavir, there are so many elements of this story I want to dive deeper into, but we could then be sitting here for the rest of the day today. But I would love to end, as I end every show, with a quick rapid fire, because I think other answers you can think through, but I'll give you 10 things that you have to immediately answer.
Oh God.
But do you need a glass of water before we get
No,
started?
I don't.
Okay, great. So we're gonna go with rapid fire. So first question, whatever first comes to mind, right? What's the first thing you do when you open your eyes in the morning? First thing.
I look at my phone and see the time.
Okay. What's one app you're obsessed with at the moment?
I think it has to be WhatsApp. My work happens on WhatsApp.
One market that you think currently is underrated, that it is not getting the attention it should.
Marketing in terms of geography.
No, I'm talking about in terms of, let's say, in the startup ecosystem, that this undercurrent is there in a sector, in a thematic that is not getting the attention it deserves.
I think I still feel that the rural education
That's
and is still not getting the what it deserves. I think these different language and this language issue that's dividing India. If it was education could happen across languages, it would absolutely become so easy and so seamless. I think we've not been able to take advantage of that.
I see.
So I think education and skill upgradation in rural India is something that's not taken.
If you could be a superhero, right? Anyone in this, which one would you be?
If I could be a superhero, I could be Superman.
Superman.
Yeah.
Great. Are you a reader or are you more of a podcast listener?
I'm more of a reader.
More of a reader.
I read 2 hours a day.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
What's the book you're currently reading?
I mean, I've stopped reading fiction now.
Achha.
So I'm reading multiple. So I read subject matters. So if there's a sector that I want to read about, I'll read the sector. I'll read news. I need to, not news, just what happened in terms of editorial and opinions. I love psychology and psychoanalysis. So I read a lot of nonfiction on those books. And
Is there a book that you keep returning to all the time?
The Alchemist.
The Alchemist. I love that book.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Fountainhead. There are a few of my favorite books, yes.
A founder behavior that is an immediate green flag for you in the first meeting.
I don't have a green flag. I have many red flags, but I don't have a green flag. I don't get sold by just one thing. I need to test that person. See, you and I have lost money in many startups which were not able to do well, despite doing the diligence that we were supposed to do. So I think I don't give anyone the benefit of doubt. I mean, I meet everyone with an open mind, but no green flag in particular. Many red flags.
Many red flags.
Yeah.
What's one particular pet peeve, pet red flag that you're like, this always has lost me money when I notice it in the first meeting?
I think people who are stubborn or rigid in what they are doing who are not ready to pivot,
right?
Who are not ready to change track, have always lost me money.
One thing you recommend a founder should do every week?
Every week is talk to their customers.
Like in person?
Over the phone, in person, listen to the logs if it's being recorded. Reach out randomly to any customer. They should be talking to their customers.
It's so wonderful sage advice. Right? In fact, last week we had the exact same advice from Sandeep Singhal of Next.
Okay.
So the exact same thing. Just one advice I give to a founder: talk to your customer.
Yes.
Right? Don't go on what you're saying.
And anonymous. You don't have to say, okay, I'm calling.
And I feel like because we're salespeople and we've done our level of sales, we've always found that the real answer was not even what we were thinking it is. The customer tells you what they're looking for, and that's what gives the answer.
Exactly.
Great. I have one last, in fact, two last ones, and so one market you think is currently overrated. I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask you any which ways. Market thematic item, I think is just like too many people are just overhyping at this moment.
Not one, many. I mean, I think EV, drone are so crowded that they're overhyped. We don't even know where this. Even the battery technology, God knows what
Correct.
will happen to the batteries. Will get charged in 5 minutes. Do we need EV charging stations? Maybe not. So I think that's overhyped. I look at it anywhere in the paragraph EV comes, I stop it. I'm not. This is not for me. So I think that's overhyped.
I don't really, and to me, I don't even know, many of them don't have the R&D budgets to really, I mean, it's mostly the assembled stuff, right?
Yes, exactly. And they're imported and assembled, and it doesn't make sense to me. And the overhyped word is AI.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think you're going to say it, but...
No, but ठीक है, I mean, for me, EVs are very, this thing.
Lastly, 3 words you would use to define the Indian startup ecosystem.
We are the future.
We are the future. Wow, love it. Wow, 3 words. We are the future. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mahavir. This has been such an enlightening episode. I knew a lot about you, but today I know a lot more about you. And I'm so glad we did this. Is there any final words you would like to have for the audience?
No, I think must thank you for having me. Also for the great work that you're doing. I hope people get encouraged to become investors and people get exits like they are getting exits. I think it's great work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mahavir. Look forward to having you in a future episode.
Happy to. Thank you.